Coruscant never slept, but that night the capital felt cold. Anakin Skywalker crossed the Senate district with one thought burning in his chest. Palpatine had confessed. He was the Sith Lord behind the war, the voice behind the lies, the shadow behind the dead. In the old timeline, Anakin would have hesitated. Here, he chose action. He entered the Chancellor's chamber and found Palpatine waiting, calm, smiling, ready. "You will need me," Palpatine said. "Without me, Padme dies." The words hit hard. For one dangerous moment, Anakin almost listened. Then he understood the truth. Every fear, every vision, every doubt had been sharpened by the man in front of him. Anakin ignited his lightsaber. Palpatine struck first. Red and blue light slashed across the office. Glass burst. Furniture split. Force lightning ripped through the room and scorched the walls. But Anakin was younger, faster, and now completely awake. He drove at Sidious with fierce, controlled rage, forcing the Sith Lord back with every blow. Then Palpatine made one fatal move. He turned toward the window, reaching for escape. Anakin did not let him. With a single strike, he cut down Darth Sidious before Order 66 could ever be spoken. Silence followed. Mace Windu and the Jedi Masters arrived seconds later. They found Anakin standing over the body, chest rising, blade still burning. The war had changed in one breath. "He was the Sith," Anakin said. "It's over." But Windu did not look relieved. He looked afraid. Because Palpatine was dead, but the Republic still stood on a minefield of secrets. The clone army remained in the field. The Senate would demand answers. The Separatists still fought on. And somewhere beyond Coruscant, men loyal to Sidious were already preparing their next move in the dark before anyone knew where to look. Hours after Palpatine's death, the Jedi Temple turned from a place of calm into a war room. Mace Windu ordered the Chancellor's office sealed. Yoda returned from Kashyyyk through secure channels. Obi-Wan left Utapau under emergency recall. No one in the council believed Sidious had acted alone. Anakin stood before them, still shaken, still angry. He explained everything. Palpatine had revealed himself. He had promised power over death. He had pushed fear into every crack of Anakin's mind. This time, Anakin had struck before the trap could close. The council listened in silence. Then the real fear began. If Sidious had ruled from the center of the Republic, then his shadow had touched everything. Senate aides, military officers, banking clans, corporate leaders, even trusted guards on Coruscant could have served him. The Jedi could not simply announce the truth. If they moved too fast, hidden allies might erase the evidence and turn the galaxy against them. They sent teams at once. Shaak Ti was ordered to inspect the clone command systems. Kit Fisto and Agent Kolar searched Palpatine's private vaults. Obi-Wan was told to trace every contact linked to the Separatist leadership. Yoda focused on the Force itself, sensing a web of fear that had not vanished with Sidious. What they found was worse than anyone expected. Encrypted files tied Palpatine to both sides of the Clone War. Secret funds moved through shell accounts. Emergency powers had been drafted years in advance. Worst of all, hidden directives sat inside the clone network, locked behind codes no Jedi had ever seen. "Order 66, Shaak Ti whispered. The room froze. It was real. A command designed to turn the clone army against the Jedi in a single moment. Palpatine was dead, but his final weapon was still loaded and ready to fire. Deep beneath Coruscant, one of Sidious's surviving agents opened a secure channel. A buried signal began to wake inside the clone network. And across the galaxy, the Jedi had no idea the Purge was still only one command away. Across the galaxy, the clones waited for a command that never came. Palpatine had died before he could speak the words, and that single change cracked the Sith plan at its core. On dozens of battlefronts, Jedi generals felt the tension in their troops, but saw no sudden betrayal. The Purge had stalled in silence. At the Jedi Temple, Shaak Ti and the healers worked without rest, scanning clone command files and medical records. What they found confirmed the horror. Each clone carried an inhibitor chip hidden deep inside the brain, built to force total obedience when Order 66 was given. Without Sidious alive to trigger it, the command chain had broken. The clones were still soldiers of the Republic, but now they were also victims of a plan they never chose. Yoda moved quickly. Secure messages reached Jedi across the Outer Rim. Do not travel alone. Do not fully trust military orders. Stand down major assaults. Obi-Wan and Cody paused operations on Utapau. Ahsoka, already far from the order, received a warning through old channels. Rex heard the truth and felt sick. For the first time, loyal clones began to understand that they had been turned into weapons against their own generals. But the discovery came at a cost. News of Palpatine's death spread through the Senate, and panic followed. Many senators blamed the Jedi at once. Others demanded control of the clone army before the Order could seize power. In that confusion, hidden agents of Sidious pushed false reports into military networks, hoping to restore the command and restart the purge. Then one battalion on the edge of the mid-rim stopped responding. Their Jedi general vanished from comms. And on Coruscant, Shaktai looked up from the data and whispered, "Someone else already has the codes." The Jedi had stopped the first strike, but not the whole plan. Somewhere in the dark, Sidious's final backup was waking up. And this time, the order might come from a hand no one expected. Inside the Jedi Temple, the war outside seemed far away. But for Anakin Skywalker, the real battle had only begun. He had killed Palpatine. He had stopped the first blow against the Jedi. Yet none of that calmed the storm inside him. Obi-Wan and Yoda met him in a sealed chamber, far from the council floor and far from clone patrols. For several seconds, Anakin said nothing. Then the truth broke loose. He spoke of the visions of Padme dying. He spoke of Palpatine's promises. He admitted how close he had come to listening. Obi-Wan did not interrupt. The pain on his face said enough. He had watched Anakin grow from a gifted boy into a hero of the Republic. Now he saw how long Sidious had been shaping him in secret. "You should have told me," Obi-Wan said softly. "I know," Anakin answered. "I thought fear made me strong. It made me blind." Yoda listened with eyes half closed, feeling both shame and warning in the Force. The Jedi had sensed darkness around the Chancellor, but they had missed how deeply that darkness had reached into Anakin's heart. For the first time, Anakin also confessed the final secret. Padme was his wife. The room fell silent again. Obi-Wan looked stunned, but not angry. At last, the hidden pieces fit together. Love, fear, secrecy, and guilt had chained Anakin for years. Yoda told him the truth he had needed long ago. Fear of loss was the shadow the Sith used best. Then a temple alarm cut through the chamber. A coded military signal had appeared in the Republic network. One missing clone battalion was moving toward Coruscant, and Senate security was opening a path for it. Obi-Wan reached for his saber. As Yoda turned, hearing betrayal move through the government itself. Anakin had finally told the truth, but truth came too late to stop the next crisis. Somewhere inside the Senate, Sidious's hidden allies were making their move, and Coruscant was about to learn that Palpatine's death had not ended the war. It had only changed its shape. Coruscant erupted before dawn. News of Chancellor Palpatine's death spread through the Senate in waves of panic, anger, and suspicion. No one agreed on what had happened. Some believed the Jedi had saved the Republic from a Sith Lord. Others claimed the Order had staged a coup and murdered the elected leader of the galaxy. Inside the Senate rotunda, voices turned into shouting matches. Maz Amedda demanded emergency authority to stabilize the capital. Senators loyal to Padme Amidala called for an independent inquiry. Bail Organa warned that panic would do Sidious's work for him. But fear spread faster than reason. Outside, Coruscant security forces locked down major districts, while clone units received conflicting orders from frightened commanders. Some battalions held position. Others marched toward the Senate Plaza under false alerts planted by Sidious's hidden allies. Civilians saw armed troops in the streets and assumed the Jedi had started a civil war. From the temple, Obi-Wan and Yoda watched the crisis deepen by the hour. They could prove Palpatine had been Darth Sidious, but proof meant little if the Senate refused to hear it. The Sith had built his rule on fear, and now that fear was leaderless, unstable, and everywhere. Anakin felt the pressure closing in from all sides. He had killed the Sith Lord, yet the galaxy still looked at the Jedi with distrust. Padme reached him through a private channel and begged him to stay calm. "If you act in anger now," she said, "Palpatine still wins." Then the next blow landed. A faction inside the Senate called for the immediate arrest of Anakin Skywalker, naming him Palpatine's assassin and the spark of treason. At the same moment, a clone convoy broke through Coruscant's inner defense ring and headed straight for the temple gates at full speed. The Republic was no longer holding together. It was breaking in public. And as the clones closed in, Anakin felt a darker question rising inside him. If the galaxy would not trust the Jedi to save it, then who would seize control first? Anakin stood on the temple balcony and watched Coruscant burn with panic. Sirens echoed through the sky lanes. Clone transports moved below like hunting beasts, while the Senate argued over laws that no longer meant anything. Palpatine was dead, but the anger he had fed into the Republic was still alive. Inside the temple, Jedi prepared for a siege. Younglings were moved deeper underground. Masters sealed entrances and opened emergency escape routes. Anakin helped direct the defense, yet every order felt wrong. He could sense fear in the clones, confusion in the city, and something darker inside himself. Part of him wanted to end the crisis in one brutal stroke, march into the Senate, silence the traitors, force the Republic to obey. Obi-Wan saw it in his eyes. "This is how Sidious wins," he warned. "He is gone, but his path is still open." Yoda said less, but his words struck deeper. "A master, Skywalker, the Darkside does not need. Only pain, only fear, only a choice." The warning hit harder than any blade. Anakin remembered his mother, the Tusken camp, Dooku on his knees, the look on Palpatine's face before the final strike. He had told himself that killing Sidious was justice, but justice had felt dangerously close to satisfaction. Then Padme arrived under guard, ignoring every warning from her aides. She went straight to Anakin and took his shaking hand. "Listen to me," she said. "If you try to control this galaxy by force, you will become the thing you stopped." Before Anakin could answer, the temple holomap flashed red. 3 more clone battalions had turned toward the capital. At the same time, Padme requested emergency speaking rights before the Senate. Bail Organa backed her. While the Jedi prepared for battle, she walked toward the chamber alone to save the Republic. Anakin had won the first battle against the Sith, but not the war inside himself. Now Padme was stepping into the fire, with the whole Republic ready to tear itself apart. And if her voice failed, Coruscant might fall before the Jedi ever drew another blade. Padme Amidala entered the Senate chamber knowing words alone might not be enough. The rotunda was full, but it did not feel united. It felt hungry. Fear had spread through every level of government. Palpatine was dead. The Jedi were accused. The clone army was splitting under broken commands. And now the Republic stood on the edge of civil war. Bail Organa stood beside her. Mon Mothma watched from the Loyalist bloc. Across the chamber, Mas Amedda gathered frightened senators around him, pushing the same lie again and again. The Jedi had murdered the Chancellor. The Jedi planned to seize control. The Senate had to act first. Padme stepped to the center podium and forced the chamber to listen. Sheev Palpatine was a Sith Lord, she said. He used this war to control both sides. If we answer his death with panic, then we finish his work for him. Some senators shouted back at once. Others hesitated. Then Bail released the first classified records recovered from Palpatine's private vaults. War contracts, secret channels, emergency decrees prepared years ahead of time. Proof began to spread across the chamber screens. The room shifted. Doubt replaced certainty. But outside the Senate, the crisis kept moving. Jedi starfighters circled the temple as clone battalions entered Coruscant airspace. Obi-Wan organized defenses but refused to attack first. Yoda ordered every Jedi to hold the line, protect civilians, and avoid striking at confused clones, unless there was no choice. Anakin waited at the temple gates, torn between Padme's plea for peace and the instinct to end the threat himself. Then the Senate floor exploded into panic. A hidden loyalist of Sidious pulled a weapon and fired at Padme's podium. The shot missed, but the message did not. Peace had just been challenged in front of the Republic. The Senate had heard the truth, but fear was still faster than reason. As guards drew weapons and the chamber descended into chaos, Anakin felt the moment slipping away. And if Padme could not save the Republic with her voice, he might try to save it with power. When the blaster shot rang through the Senate, order broke. Guards rushed toward Padme's podium. Senators dove for cover. On the temple holonet, Anakin saw smoke fill the chamber, and every fear Palpatine had planted came alive again. He moved before anyone could stop him. A Jedi interceptor, dropped him onto the Senate platform within minutes. He entered with his lightsaber unlit, caught between rescue and rage. Padme was alive. Bail Organa had pulled her behind cover. Then Anakin felt it through the Force, one shooter above, two below, and another slipping toward a private exit. Anakin ignited his blade. Blue light flashed across the chamber. He deflected a second shot meant for Padme, leaped to the upper tier, and disarmed the sniper. He landed, turned, and hurled another attacker into a column before a third shot could fire. The chamber fell silent. For many senators, this was the first time they had seen Anakin Skywalker as something fast, dangerous, and hard to trust. Mazameta shouted that the Jedi were attacking the Senate. Some believed him. Others looked at the dead assassins and hesitated. That hesitation saved the Republic. Padme rose through the smoke and forced the chamber to listen. She ordered the Senate screens reopened and demanded every file from Palpatine's private archive be released live. Bail Organa backed her. Mon Mothma joined him. The records appeared. Secret directives, hidden accounts, messages tying Palpatine to both the Republic and the Separatists. The war had been shaped from the center. The chamber changed. Not fully, but enough. Then the next threat arrived. The clone convoy reached the Temple District, and this time the hidden command inside part of the army woke. Not every unit turned. Some chips failed. Some officers resisted. Some clones had already been warned. But enough obeyed to begin the assault. Gunships opened fire on the temple walls. Walkers moved into the plaza. Across Coruscant, civilians ran as the battle began without Sidious. Yoda and Obi-Wan led the defense with discipline. Protect. Hold. Do not become conquerors. Inside the Senate, Padme grabbed Anakin's arm. If you save the Republic by fear, she said, then Sidious still wins. Anakin looked around the chamber and saw two futures. In one, he crushed the attacking clones, seized emergency command, and forced peace on a broken galaxy. It would work for a while. Crime would fall. Senators would obey. Worlds would kneel. And somewhere on that road, Darth Vader would be born. In the other future, he let go of control. That path looked slower, weaker, full of risk. The Jedi might still fall. The Republic might still split apart. Padme might still die one day, beyond all his power to stop it. But it was the only path that still felt human. He made his choice. Anakin opened a secure channel to Rex, Cody, and every clone officer still free enough to think. He sent the evidence, the chip data, and Palpatine's final deception. "You are not machines," he said. "Stand down. Choose." For one heartbeat, nothing changed. Then the battle shifted. On the temple steps, whole squads lowered their rifles. Some turned on the officers driving the assault. Medics rushed wounded Jedi and wounded clones into the same shelters. Order 66 did not become a clean purge. It became a fracture inside the army itself. By nightfall, the attack on the temple had failed. Mazameta was arrested. Sidious's closest allies were exposed or fled. Emergency powers were suspended. The Senate named Bail Organa interim chancellor until a full vote could be held. The Republic stepped back from the edge. But peace did not feel like victory. The Jedi Order had survived, yet it stood ashamed before the galaxy. They had served a rotten system too long and missed the Sith at its center. Yoda admitted that failure openly. Obi-Wan remained beside Anakin, but trust would need time. And Anakin knew he had saved the Republic from Sidious while coming dangerously close to becoming the next tyrant. At dawn, he met Padme on a Senate balcony overlooking the wounded city. Smoke still rose between the towers. Traffic slowly returned. "The Empire never came," Padme said. Anakin looked over Coruscant and answered with quiet honesty. "It almost did." He did not ask for power. He did not take the Chancellor's office. Instead, he chose to hunt the last Sith loyalists, free the clones from their chips, and rebuild trust between the Jedi and the Republic. Still, as the sun rose over the capital, the Force offered no final comfort. The future remained open, unwritten. And for the first time, Anakin understood the truth Palpatine had feared most. The Chosen One was never meant to rule the galaxy. He was meant to choose what kind of man would help save it. The Empire never rises in this timeline. But peace is still not guaranteed. Because even without Sidious, the future of the galaxy now rests on one fragile truth. Anakin Skywalker chose not to rule. But the question is how long the galaxy can survive without someone trying again.